Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Cooking and Exploring with Smitty. Well, it's dinner time here, and the weather's pretty cold today, even though the sun is shining beautifully outside. Don't let that fool you. So, what I am making today is gumbo, and it's a very easy recipe. And gumbo can cook all day if you like it to, but if you don't want it to, you can only have to cook in an hour and a half to 2 hours. And the secret is because I cook the meat or brown the meat before I put it in. So let me get my things together and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so we're going to get started by browning our meat. And I'm going to be adding a little canola oil, not a lot. I know this is a big thing, but I'm just adding a little. And I'm letting it heat up. And what I've already done is I've already seasoned my meat so that it's seasoned. I cut it up and I put it into the refrigerator. So what I'm going to start off with is browning my chicken first. As you can see, it's already been seasoned. I'm going to crank this up a little. I don't know why my stove makes that noise, but have at it. So anyway, I've cut my chicken up into chunks, as you can see. And what I'm going to do is put it in to start to brown. Because this moves the process along when you're making gumbo. So I'm going to get this all browned up. I've got it on high. Turn this up a little higher. So what you want to do is just get your meat brown and get it to cooking. So whenever you get ready to put it into your gumbo, it's already started the cooking process. So that's why it's not taking a long time for you to cook your gumbo. And even though I like my stuff to season and cook over low fire for a long period of time, it just tastes better that way. So what I'm going to wind up doing is cooking this for probably about 2 hours before we start to eat it. But like I said, this moves the process up. And I've also saw people who take their chicken and bake it in the oven before they start to cook. So I'm going to go ahead and cook this chicken up. And then I'm going to come back and we'll do the next part. Okay, as you can see, the chicken's already starting to brown. And what I'm going to do, I've already cleaned out the dish that I had it in. So I'm going to be putting it back in here so that I could set it aside. And the point of it is to get your food brown, but not to cook it all the way through, because it will resume cooking when you put it into your gumbo. So, let's see here. Let's get this taken out and back into the container. Like so. And like I said, we just wanted to get some color on it before we put it into the gumbo. And I've got my heat on high. And as I said, I cleaned out my bowl because you don't want to put cooked chicken into something that was raw. So I'm going to put all this in here. And see all that goodness in the bottom of the pan? I'm going to use that to my advantage. So let's put all this in here. And because it was raw. Okay. So what we want to do with this is set it aside. So now what I'm going to put in here, turn this down, is my andouille sausage. And we're going to let this brown. And then what this is doing, like I said, is giving your meat a chance to get a head start on the cooking process so that you're not cooking all day. So I'm just going to let this turn and let this start to brown. And we'll come back. Okay, so my sausage is browning. It's almost ready to come out. And what I'm using here is andouille sausage. And if you can't get andouille sausage, you can also use like kielbasa and stuff like and that kind of sausage. I usually go to the Eastern market and buy my sausage and this stuff, but I didn't go down this time. So I bought this one at the local grocery store. They did have it. So I've gotten this all cleaned out. I've cleaned out my dish. And what I'm going to do is take my sausage out of here and I'm going to put it into my dish. And what you're doing is you're browning your meat and you're setting it aside. And then one thing I'm going to add to my gumbo is I'm going to add shrimp. I like the sausage and chicken, but I also like shrimp in it also. So I usually do a whole straight seafood gumbo, but the price of seafood has went up. Well, not just the price of seafood, but the price of everything has went up so much. And so I'm using shrimp, and I'm using this. I'm going to put this in here. Now, I remember a long time ago when we used to cook things, this little stuff that's in the bottom of the pan, my mother would use it. She'd clean the pan, and then she'd wash it and do it, and then try it again. So what I'm going to do, because I want that good little parts of the bottom, I'm going to add some onions. And with your gumbo, you can add onions, bell peppers. I happen to not have bell peppers when I went to the store. So I'm going to add some celery. Matter of fact, I'm going to add all the celery. And to this, I'm going to add garlic. You can't cook without garlic. So, what I'm going to do with this is just move it around so that it gets, kind of brown. And usually the recipe says to add this to your roux, but I like the taste that this stuff on the bottom of the pan gives the flavor to your food. So what I'm going to do is give this a little time to brown, just like so. And then to take up all that stuff on the bottom of the pan, which is your goodness, I'm going to add chicken stock. So let's shovel this around a little bit until it gets a little translucent. And like I said, you don't want to cook it too much because you don't want your garlic to burn, because burnt garlic is not good. Stir this all around and see how it's taking on that color, the nice golden color, but yet and still it's not burnt. Now what's going to happen is, turn this up a little, once I pour my chicken stock in, which I just poured it all over the stove, it's going to deglaze, and all that good stuff that's on the bottom of the pan that people usually throw away, it's going to come up off the bottom of that pan, and it's all going to go in my gumbo. So I'm going to add some more chicken stock, like so. And I'm just going to let this cook for a little bit. So when you come back, I'm going to go and let this cook, and when I come back, I'm going to be getting ready to make the roux, which is the most important part of your gumbo. If you're ever making the roux and it burns, start over again, because it's not going to make your gumbo taste any better. So we'll be back. Okay, so I'm back. As I said, this is the most important part of your gumbo, because if this burns or it's not of good taste, your gumbo won't be of good taste. So what I'm adding to this pot is a half a cup of oil. Make sure I get all that out. I'll turn the fire up a little. You don't want it up too high because it'll scorch. And then to that, I'm going to add a half a cup of flour. And what I'm going to do is stir it in a little at a time because I want it to get mixed and not be all lumpy. So I'm stirring it in a little. And you have to continuously mix this. And this part right here usually takes anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes to get it the right way. So this is my roux, and I'm constantly mixing it. And what you want this to do is to cook to the consistency of chocolate, the color of chocolate. So you just keep continuously stirring it, because as I said, you do not want it to burn, because that's the worst thing that could happen. So I'm not going to keep you on here for the whole 30 minutes, but let me show you what it's looking like. You can see that. And then when I come back, we'll have it cooked down to where it should be. So right now it's right there, and I'll be back. Okay, I just wanted to bring you back so that you could see the color of the roux right now. And I've been stirring it for way over 15 minutes. And it's getting to that color of chocolate that I want. So I'm going to keep stirring until I get there. Okay, as you can see, this has turned that wonderful chocolate brown. Let me try to bring it in so you can see it even better. And I just kept stirring it. I've been stirring it probably for about 20-25 minutes. And that's the way you want your roux to be. Because if it's any other way, if it burns, you have to start over again and all that stuff. So what I'm going to do, since my roux is at the color it wants, and I made it darker than this. And they say the darker your roux, the richer your gumbo. So I'm just going to keep stirring. And what they are normally, my recipe that I follow usually says to put your vegetables into this, but because I wanted the bottom of that pan taste, I went ahead and deglazed my pan, and I'm just going to use that in here. So I would think that's pretty chocolate. What do you think? So to this, I'm going to add my chicken in again, my sausage, and I'm still stirring it around because I don't want it to burn, and that's just getting coated. So what I'm going to add to this is my roux and vegetables. Remember all that goodness from the bottom of the pan? Just let it simmer. Now I'm going to add more chicken stock because it is a gumbo. There. See the color of that roux? How beautiful it is? And what I'm going to do is move this to the back burner so that it can go ahead and cook. I'm going to add a little bit more chicken stock before I do that. So let's make a little bit more up. That's a beautiful color of gumbo. So I'm adding more chicken stock. And that's going to all cook down. And what I'm going to do is place this on the back burner on low. But before I do that, I'm going to add some Cajun seasoning. So what I'm going to add is probably about a couple of shakes, because this can be kind of hot. Is that about 2? Get that off of there. Okay, and then I'm just going to stir it around to mix it all up. And then when I come back, what we'll be doing is adding the shrimp. I don't want to add the shrimp now, only because it doesn't take as long to cook. So I'll be back. Just came to give you a little look at how the gumbo's doing. So let's turn it around. There we go. It's doing real good. I left it on for an hour and 12 minutes I have left, because what I'm going to do is add the shrimp to it at the last parts of the minutes. And then I'm also going to add gumbo filet. I'm making myself a nice cup of Ethiopian coffee, and I'll be back. So I'm waiting for my coffee to be ready. I just put it in. And what I wanted to show you is this is gumbo filet. And what it's used for is to thicken your gumbo if you want it thicker than what it is. And what gumbo filet is only sassafras leaves is what it is. So once my gumbo finishes cooking, I'm going to add this to it if I want it to thicken up, and we'll be good to go. So until that gets finished, I'm having me a nice little Christmas cake that I'm going to eat part of with my coffee. And just wanted to let you know that my next video coming up is probably going to be tamales. And tamales is it's a tradition for people to make tamales for Christmas, because they all get together in a group and they share in making tamales. Now, my mother never made tamales because she said it was too much work. Oh, I guess that means my coffee's ready. Hold on, let me get some coffee. So what this is, it's a French press, but it heats your water up for you. So let me get some coffee poured in here, and then you can keep on talking. I think I put a little much. It might be a little strong. That's okay. I love Ethiopian coffee. I go to the Ethiopian restaurant and I get it all the time. They make it so good and fresh. But anyway, tamales is a tradition where a lot of Hispanic families get together and they make tamales in a group. So I think what I'm going to be making this year is maybe some chili and cheese. I had chili and cheese tamales on the train, and oh my God, with a tomatillo sauce, they are delicious. And then I'm going to do probably some pork, but not a lot. So, stay tuned for that video. And it's nice to be able to have coffee with you. Ethiopian coffee. Delicious. Okay, so let's look and see what's going on with the gumbo. Let's take the lid off. And there it is. I've already added the shrimp. And I've added some gumbo filet. And I'm going to let that cook a little bit more. It's got like about 24 minutes more to cook. And then we're going to plate it up and see what it tastes like and looks like on rice. Okay, so what I'm going to do is a quick little taste for you. It's all done and it's ready to eat. That's the gumbo, and I added the shrimp and the rice. So let's get a little bit of taste. Very juicy. The roux is delicious, very delicious. The sausage. This is the andouille sausage. I think I'm going to break that in a little piece because it's still kind of hot. I just want to taste each individual piece of meat by itself. So let's try this one. This is the sausage. Delicious. Flavorful. Let's try the chicken. They're so good. Mm. And now let's try a piece of shrimp. I broke it in half so we can really try it. Let's give it a blow. Mmm, delicious. Mmm, so delicious. And I read in a book that you eat gumbo with potato salad, but I like it by itself or with some sourdough bread, believe it or not. Sourdough bread and butter. So, thank you for joining me on this great experience. Thank you for joining me on every video that you've seen. Thank you for being a part of Cooking It Up and Exploring with Smitty. I really appreciate it. And till the next time, have a great one.